put this. So I'm trying to come from the very simple side, then we would go up. But I want you to just get the gist. If I have this now, so let me just say this is the network address we have. And they say we are now having a meeting, and we said we need 5 subnets. That means we want to split our network into 5. Do you know what we can use for the CIDR? You have an idea? How can we split our 256 IPs into, how many network did I say we need? 5, right? To 5 places. And also, if we are having the 5 network, we just need maybe we need about 20 devices to be connected to each of them. So that if you're probably calculating, so we have a network we are creating, we need 5 subnets, and then we need like 20 devices connected in each subnet. Do you know what we can use to achieve that from the explanation I've been giving? So I won't wait long. If anybody doesn't get that, I will just move and explain it. So does anybody have the idea?
Sorry, what was the question?
Now I want to create 5 subnets because so let me just draw this out. I need 5 subnets. I want to put devices. I want to put this. I want to create different network for these 5 devices, and for different, I want to create different network, and I want like the maximum of 25 devices will be connected to each of these subnets. Do you have an idea what the subnets I would use that will give me achieve what I want to do?
Yeah, you use /27, I think.
Yeah, correct. So if I use that /27, the truth there is I will get more than 5, right?
Yeah,
But the truth,
5.
I will achieve what I want to do. I will get more than 5 subnets. But if I use 26, I'm getting 4. I would not get what I want to do. So if I use 26 now, which is what I just spoke about now, right? We are going to be, for 26, we are taking 2 bits from the host. So if we take 2 bits from the host, what exactly is going to happen when we take the 2 bits from the host, right? It's going to be 2 raised to the power of 2, which is 4. That means it's 4 subnets we are creating if we use /26, but we need 5. So if we use 27, 27 will be 2 raised to the power of 3,
3,
which
8.
is 8. Yeah. So now if it is 8, that means we can take 5 and the remaining 3 subnets, we can let go of it. So let's see something. Look at that calculation I was trying to tell you. The idea now is this subnet. What this subnet is doing is just dividing these IPs we have here. So if we have 256 IPs for this /24 now, and then we say we need different network. Gift, what's up now? If we say we have if we have, what do they call it? If we have 5 subnets now that we want to create now, we are looking for how to split these IPs we have here, which is 256. You can't just split them anyhow. So the logic, if you're looking at these IPs, for every subnet you're creating, right? The number for each subnet will divide this and give you a whole number. So if I say I need subnet and my subnet is 6, 6 cannot give me whole number if I divide this with 6. 4 cannot give me whole number. So the way the subnet work is we are going to be dividing these IPs for this particular class. We'll divide it and it will give us like a whole number. So that's the logic also if you're looking at the subnet and trying to balance it when we are talking. So if you look at this now, this 256, We are creating 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 network. That's what we are creating. So if we are creating 5 network, what am I going to do now? I would look for the number of subnet I can create, right? Even if it's not going to give me the exact 5, but I won't go for something lower. So something that will give me this will be 27, and 27 is giving me 8. So let's divide this by 8. So you can see that it will give me 32. That means these IPs will be divided by 32. And when I have that 32, I can do 32 minus 2, right? So I needed like 20 devices in each of this network. So that means the requirement is met. So if probably I said I needed 5 network and I needed at least 256 IPs in one, then there's no way I would achieve this. Or sorry, let me say I needed 250 no, let me not use two. Let me say 245 devices will be on each of the subnets, right? The only way I will achieve that is leaving this class C. I'll just move to class B range. When I go to that class B range, then I would now choose to create a subnet, and the subnet I'll be using in the class B range will be this. I can use this now. So if what I simply mean is I can choose to go to, I need like 240 devices, right, in each of my subnets. I can choose to say I'm using this now. I'm just, I can say this is my address space now. This is the address space I'll give Azure, but when I'm creating my subnet, I can choose to use this as the subnet. This is what I'll be using to create my subnet. I'll just be increasing the numbers as it's going down. I would not use all of the subnets, right? Probably I said I needed 5, right? I could say, but I need like each subnet should hold about 240 devices, right? So I know this would actually meet my requirement. I could say, okay, um, if I use this and I create the first subnet, increase the second subnet like that, I would get what I want to achieve there with this. Because first of all, if I use this particular um subnet, right, this class CDR, sorry, if I use the CDR now for this particular range, IP range I selected, if I calculate it normally, what this will give me if I calculate this is, this is class B and we have 16 host bits. Now we are taking 8 host bits, right? So if we're taking 8 host bits from this our class B, so it just simply means that this is 2 raised to the power of 8. So this is the number of subnets that we can create, right? But if we can get this subnet, right, from this whole idea, we don't really need all the subnets. We just need the IP that can take the number of hosts we need for each of those subnets. So that's why we're actually using it. Just like this one now, we need 5 devices, 5 subnets, and then we need just 20 devices to be in each of those subnets. We know that if we use this now, right, this, if we give it this address range and we break this smaller, right, if we break this smaller like we did, we went to select 27, that's this person said. So if we say 27 is, we are borrowing 3, right, 2 raised to the power of 3 is 8. And if we do 256 divided by 8, right? We know we are breaking that network into 32 IPs. Each, this will have 32, 32, 32. We'll still do our minus 32, 32, 32, 32. That's exactly what we are going to be breaking um, our network into. So for this particular one now, you can see when we did 2 raised to the power of 8, we have 256. So it just simply means that the the range of IPs we can get from this particular address is on by default, right? For this is going to be is 655 36. Yeah. So this is what we can have from this, right? So but now we are breaking the network. We are creating subnet, right? So if we create subnet now and we are creating um 256. So you can see this is the exact IPs we'll be having for each of the subnets. So for each of these 256 subnets we'll be creating, we'll be having each of the subnets can take 256 IPs. Each of the subnets can take 256 IPs. But no, remember, we need just 240 devices to connect here. So this will meet our requirement. So we'll just probably take the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the other ones. But then it might not be a good way to manage IPs, right? Because you just be wasting IPs. But depending on your requirements, you can always set this whole thing up. But for us here now, right? For this particular one here, right here, we need 20 devices in each of the subnets that we are creating. We need 20 devices. And we have this range that we want to put in Azure. And when we look at this range in Azure, we would now say, okay, what can actually give us that is if we use 27. So if I come here and say the IP we'll be using will be 27, let me reduce this a little more. So if I come here and say the IP we'll be using will be 20. I don't know if this is correct. Okay, 27, yeah. So I typed the correct stuff. So this is 27, right? So if we start this first IP here with 27, we can see where the first IP is starting from. The next IP, do you know where it will be starting from for this next subnet? Any idea? Do you know the next IP, what will be starting from?
31, 32.
Okay, nice. So that will be the next that will be our next network ID. So our next network ID for this will be what? Have an idea.
63.
The next network ID.
64.
Yeah. So you just need to know that broadcast is what is always odd numbers. Do you get? Network ID would always be the even, while your broadcast would be the odd. So that's the logic. And since you already know from the beginning, we already know the number of hosts we'll be having is 32, right? So since the number is counting from 0, that means the last number will be less than the number of hosts we calculated. So our number of hosts that we calculated is 32. Forget the fact that we are doing the minus, right? So if we have 32 now, and this is starting from 0, that means we'll end in 31. The next one will start from 32. So just add 32 to this guy now, which will give us 64. So add 32 to this one again. So let's
Add
just
96.
96. 96.
mhm. So now this, what are we going to have here? What's the next one?
128.
128.
If you remember that table we use in, like, when we're doing the explanation for network, right? That table can be always very handy if you till you master the whole stuff. So you can just write it down until you get the whole stuff. So now you can see this is the IPs we'll be having. And if we want to put this IP range here now, we can always say our network ID, right, will take the first one, 168.2.0. Then we can now say we can start using from 168.2.1. Then we would end at 192.168.2. So this is 30. That's where we are ending. Then the broadcast will be taking 168.2. We are going to be, our broadcast will take that. If we want to start giving IPs, probably this one will not give this. So we can just probably start taking from maybe 2 to, so we can give 20 devices can stay on this network. The same with this. So you remember we have extra 3 IPs, right? That we are not using. So the extra one subnet we can probably create in future, right? Will be oh, I didn't put /27 here. So there's supposed to be a /27, but the extra IPs we can create in the future, right, would be 192.168.2. So let's do the maths again. Somebody should give me the answer. 32 plus 128.
160.
You said?
160.
Okay. And the next one we have is 192.168.2. So the next one is answer.
192.
192.
Okay.
192.
Oh yeah. So then the next one we'll have is 168.2.
224.
You said
224.
224. So from this 224, I can tell that the last IP we end in what? As not a new subnet. So if we start assigning, will be the last broadcast we'll have for this particular IP. So if we do the math, let's see this 255 minus 224. Yep. So you can see the maths there. Remember, this would not be what do they call it? This would not be an odd number. We started from 0 here, and we have to end. Let me move this. We have to end in 255. So if you add everything up, right, our IPs should be giving us what do they call it? Our IP should be giving us 256 IPs that we have. So I don't know if you get the concept now.
Sorry, I think I have a confusion somewhere.
Okay.
If our CDR was to be 8, how many subnet could we possibly have?
Our CDR is what?
8.
I don't
Let's say
get.
let's say 192.168.2.0/8.
192.
192 cannot end in 8.
I didn't get it. Say 192 dot
Yeah, I'm just giving an instance. For example, giving an IP /8. What could
/8.
be what could be the possible subnet?
/8
Because I'm
now.
confused.
/8 is, which class do you think /8 should be?
I think it should be
Class
class
A,
A.
who have
Yeah.
16 million
Exactly.
network IPs.
So if you're doing /8, your IPs will be, let me do the calculation for you for /8. What is left? That means this 24 should be we have 24 left, right?
Yes, we have 24 left.
This is the number of IPs it if an organization have these IPs, it will be like the big guys, not just a normal organization. So you should not even be using that if you don't really have anything serious doing. You're just wasting IPs. So the /8 you can use it, but why? You can. It's not like you cannot use the /8. So why I'm using the smaller ones is and this, right? It's just because it's like something you easily see people using. Like 65 is still okay. 65,000. Then this we can still see people using it. So you can also see people using /17, 18, 19, 20. It's still okay. Yeah, because depending on how your organization size is. But when you're using maybe 17, just know that you're using CIDR that is in the class B IP range. That's exactly where you're creating your CIDR in. So you can try to do that, but that /8 is already a class, right? Class A, and we know what the IP is. Then if you want to start doing maybe subnet for it, that means we'll be doing /9. We are borrowing 1 bit, right? You can start doing maybe /10. So you're still doing that, but you have like a lot. So, but for this particular one, I'm just trying to see how we can understand the concept of this whole stuff, right? So, after seeing all this, right, I want us to use PowerShell to create this network instead of using the normal portal. So if I click here, Cloud Shell is going to load, and it will give me the option to choose between Bash or PowerShell. So let me just close back. So I will use PowerShell. I'll wait for it to connect. So if we want to do this, right, we can as well just since you already know what PowerShell is, you've used PowerShell, right? I've done the explanation. So you can always come and say, what's Azure creating VNets using PowerShell Azure. So Microsoft has documentation for you. Why was okay? Yeah, so that should be at the top. So let's look. Yeah, so there are many ways, right? Depending on what you want to do. So you can just use these commands and you just change them to how you want. So so if probably you don't want to use this method, there's another way you can use it. Let me go to, let me see. Let me click on this and see. Yes, so this is new, the resource group. This is the first subnet. We gave it a variable. So anytime we call this variable, it would impute this. So let me copy this instead of using, let me open Notepad so that we can get like the full gist. So this Notepad on this screen, I'll put it here. Yeah. So if you look at this Notepad, let's just explain this. Like once you start getting very familiar, you can then start doing. Or make this as big. Yeah. So if you look at this first line here, let me explain the first line. This first line, we are creating the resource group like we did in the portal. So in the portal, we created the resource group. So to create the new resource group, we created the resource group. Then the next line is we are creating our subnet. Now for this, our diagram right here, we are creating this subnet here, this first one. That's what we are doing. We are creating the first subnet here. So when we create this first subnet, right, we are telling Azure to store the value in this place here, front end subnet. That's what we are telling Azure to do. When we create this first subnet, store it here. Now, while we are creating the subnet, we already know our address prefix, which is this. That's this. We already know that this is what our address prefix is, right? We already know that this is what will be our address prefix. So we've created the first subnet. We are creating the second subnet, right? And now this is we creating the virtual network itself. So in this virtual network, for the part of subnets, instead of too much code, we just call the variable. So it will come here and pick them. So for us to create this now, I can just use this code the way it is. So I actually wanted us to use this because this one is more simplified for you when you're starting. You can then start using other ones. So if you look at this now, what's going to be our resource group? So we'll just say this resource group should be, this is my final explanation for this networking. So this is final RG, and you can use East US, but okay, let's just leave it at Central US. So you can just type East US here, it's fine. So we'll leave this location. So now this subnet, we can leave the variable like this, but I can choose to change my subnet name. But instead of using this variable, let me just make everything the same. So I can say first, or I can as well just, instead of using it, I'll just say subnet one, right? And then for the subnet name, let me just, this is the name of my subnet. And remember, this is what my subnet should look like. I'm using a different address space and I need it for 5 network that I'm creating. Sub network, not network. Yeah. Plus 0. And this is /27. So the next one is going to be subnet. Let me keep this. I want to keep this clean. So let me do this. This subnet, right? The name of my subnet will be subnet 2. And you remember how this whole stuff work, right? I don't really need to explain this because we did this PowerShell like very well. So I'm going to put this here. So what is my first, my network ID is going to be like the first, the starting IP, right? When we were filling it on the portal, when we were creating it on the portal, we had to put in the first IP, start IP. So for this, the start IP for this is 64. This is what we are using. Let me keep it here so that you see this. So this is exactly what I'm using to fill this. So I've created for this one, I've created for this, I've created for this. So the one left is 96, right? And 128. So the start IP. So I will just come down and paste this. There will be a problem. Somebody should tell me where there will be a problem. If I hit send.
I think in the command where you wrote the first one subnet 1, then the rest under just subnet.
And also you
Okay.
had subnet 2 in every other line.
Exactly. So this is supposed to be the variable name. I can't be saying they are the same variable. So that will be where the problem will come from. So I have to do this. So once we get our fifth network now, so this should be our fifth network. And this is 128, right? Yep. And this should be 4. And this should be 5. And this should be 5. So what's next now? We need to check for our resource group name. This is what I used. So I'll just copy this. I now conversation on this with everyone. So we've done this for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We've been talking about network. Yesterday I tried to explain, and so it's not like I'm done with network. What I'm just done with is explaining how this whole subnets and IP, right? Why I'm taking my time is I just wanted to follow up with everything we did before on-prem and how everything is on cloud. So we still have NSGs and the rest to talk about. So even the routing and all of that. So, but for this explanation that I'm taking my time to break down like this is the last training that I'll use to break this down like this, like piecing it like this. So now for our network, this is what we are using for our address prefix. So this is 192.168.2.0/24. So remember, this is our address space that we are choosing, just so you get the whole picture in your head for the last time. This address space we are picking is what will decide how many IPs we can get for our host, right? Now that we know the number of IPs we can get for our host, we want to split it by creating subnetwork. Now, when we are creating subnetwork, we need to know how many subnetwork we need, depending on our organizational goals or the planning on ground. For different departments, they say, okay, we need appliances to be on this particular subnet and all of it. Now we want to know that. And the fact that we are using this as our address prefix, we know that this is class C, right? And we also know that it is 256 IPs we can get max from this. The reason we now in this place that we are having this meeting is picking this is because we already agreed that we want to create 5 subnets. And the fact that we're creating 5 subnets, the devices that will be connecting to this subnet, the maximum device we'll be putting on them is 20. And since we have 20 devices for each of the subnets, it's okay. IT, DevOps, their devices they'll be using, or the resources that we'll be needing to connect to a network. This is where we'll be keeping them. So we know that the max we'll be getting is 20 and we need 5 subnets. So we decided to go for this. And while we were going for this, right, we now say, okay, how many network can we create? How many subnets can we create if we look at this? We said we can create /25. No, that will give us just 2 subnets. We need 5. Let's try it 26. 26, if we try 26, we are going to get like 4. We need 5. What else can we try? 27. 27 will give us 8. Oh, okay. If it gives us 8, that's fine. So, but when we get this 8 now, right? How many IPs would be held in one of those subnets? 32. Okay, minus, what are we minusing? 2, right? In the normal calculation. But Azure is going to take their own. So if Azure take their own, let's say 3. So if probably Azure is taking, like, let's say we are minusing 5 from 32, we still have enough to go around 20 devices. Then we say, okay, then this is the right bet for us, because now we have our 20 devices and we have 5 subnets. So the extra 3, we would just say, okay, anytime probably we need to create another subnet, we can go back and create the subnet. But for now, this will meet up with our goals. Now remember, this that I'm saying we meet up with our goals, right? If you're in a bigger organization, the same way we just thought about this network that we are creating, that's how you would think about yours, right? You have to sit down and then you will do the planning and say, okay, um, this should meet up with our what we want. So if you if you can come up with this, yeah, you're good to go. I'm just trying to do this to see how I get what would this be for? Oh yeah, plan. This should be 5. Yeah, so now if you look at this now and if you look at this now, we have gotten the same, we've gotten the same stuff here, but their own, that this example here is showing for how many users? Subnet 2. We have 5. So we can see, we understand how they got all these. And so let's copy our own. So like this, I'm good to go. I've created my resource account and resource group. This is where the name, this is where it will live. I've created my subnet according to my recommendation that you guys gave me, because we did this together, right? So we've agreed this is what our design should look like. And now that agreed that our design will look like that, we now went to Microsoft documentation and we said, okay, let's not use the portal. We know how to use the portal. Let's just type this out and hit it once. And then we are here typing from the portal. Remember, there's another PowerShell you can use, but start with this first, right? And when you start with this, you would move over to that one. Why I'm using this? Because you should understand this like perfectly very well. We've been using PowerShell. So, yep, this is in terminal now. Should I even do easy connect? I'm already connected to my portal. So let me just hit this. So the way I'm pasting, I just right click and I clicked on paste. Okay. And I'll hit enter. Be nice to me, Azure. Yeah, Azure was nice to me. You know, when you're doing live demos, that's when some things just go off. Yeah, so what I can just do now, let me duplicate this and duplicate tab. Resource group. Tell me I'm on the wrong portal. Oh, why am I seeing this? Let me just Okay, yeah. Let me just go to resource group. Where is, can you see fine now? Yep. Fine now. Can you see? So we didn't change the name, right? Where is, so we didn't change the name, we just use Microsoft. So probably would have changed this name here, right? So, but I just changed this because I know this, and I don't have any network that is this. So if I come here now, you can already see the location they're showing. And this was kaboom. This is our address space. We got our address space. Come to our subnet here. This is our subnet and available IPs. Yeah, we still have 20 IPs to give to our devices. So if we're creating our VM like we did yesterday, right? You can see we can pick from this subnet and just give to them. So I don't know if this network is still, there's something you still want to know about this network, how we are doing this virtual network that you don't get. I'm doing this because I got a message from someone yesterday, and I just want, as I'm explaining it to the person, I'm explaining it to all of you. So it is good the person is on this call also. So now you understand why. So what I was telling the person, right? I said I've forgotten the answer I gave the person. So you can see that if this number is 24, right? This number, once it is 25, right? What it simply means is, as this number gets high, the number of IPs that you can get for that number reduces. So for 25 now, slash 25, as the number increases, that's this CDR, CIDR number, right? Once it increases, the number of IPs you can get for it reduces. But the idea is the sub network that you're creating, right, will just reduce the IP. So let's look at this now. So for 25 now, right, if we are getting 25 and under this, it just simply means we are borrowing one of the network bits from host. So if we say raised to the power of 1, we are having 2. So that means slash 25, we can have 2 network. So if we're having 2 network, right, and those 2 network is under this, divided by 2 network that we're having, that means we are splitting these IPs into 2. So one network will take, one of the sub network will take 128, the other sub network will take 128. Remember, we still have our plus and minus, so Azure still have their own reserve IP. So I'm just using like an example. So if you have your address prefix, just note that anything you're calculating, if you calculate it your subnet to match with your needs. So for the situation where I'm using slash 25, if probably I need just 2 subnets and I know I'll be having up to like 110 or even 100, if I'll be having up to 100, what do they call it, 100 hosts, there's nothing that can give me 2 network and I'll be having 100 hosts if I want to manage it, except I'm probably doing something big. So with this, I know I can have my 100 hosts and I will have 2 sub network. Because if I go further to 26 in one of the subnet, I can have like 64, which will eventually end to 59 in Azure if Azure takes their own. So I can't even have up to the 100 host if I'm using the slash 26. So the idea there is, if I'm using slash 25, I probably have like 100. I don't even need to have up to 110. If I have like 70 device that I need to put on 2 subnet, then the best thing for me to do is to go with the slash 25. But if probably I have maybe more than this number of devices, then I'll start thinking of another plan. So just note that we have the address prefix. If I choose to say, okay, this is my address prefix and I want to create sub network, you should also know the amount of hosts those sub network will be taking and how many sub networks. So if you know this, and I already explained that magic number, you know where your next IP will start. you can actually create your own. So if I come to create this now and I don't know all this, you will see errors that will be throwing out. So the fact that we understand the start IPs, right? We know where to start, where to end. You can just write your code and your script and everything goes. So that's the beauty of understanding network. When you understand network, you can now build your virtual network before we start talking about NSGs, firewalls, application group. Yeah. So Ojo, yeah, you want to ask a question?
Yes, about this subnet. So if we have /24, it means we'll have two subnets
No,
because we're not borrowing any zero.
/24 is class C. You've forgotten the classes that we
No, I'm not
spoke
talking about class now. I say we'll have two subnets.
No,
We have /24.
if you have /24, right, and
Yes.
you're using /24, that means you're using the full IP range you gave it. You have
Yes.
/24 now for this particular stuff, and you say you want to use /24. That means you're using the whole device. That means the whole device will be connected to this network, which is
Okay. So
256.
just be a single network.
Yes, a single network, yes. But now if you want to split the network, like you're thinking of breaking down those network, right? So you just need to say, okay, if I'm breaking down this network, how many do I want to break it down into? That's the question you should ask yourself. Okay, 3? Okay, if it's 3, what can give me 3 network? If I say /25, 25 is going to give me 2. If I take /26, it will give me 4. It's better, right? I have 3, even if I would not use the last set of this thing. Now, the next question you ask yourself, if I create 3 network, this 3 network I'm creating, how many hosts devices would be in each of them? That's the next question you ask yourself. If you need 3 network and your host is more than 64, then this solution doesn't work for you. Then you have to think of how you are readjust your IP. If maybe you will take it back to saying, okay, let's be on the class B that we get by default when we are probably creating in Azure, then that class B, then I would borrow more host bits and push it further so that I can achieve what I want to achieve. Can do it that way and you're good to go. So the whole idea is just start with this one and be understanding, or just start building your network in your brain. Like, okay, I need sub networks, right? So the idea of even building the sub network sometimes is, if you're in an organization, you have maybe guest network, or you have appliances that use IP. You can actually put them on, you'll be on the same network, but you can put them on different subnets, right? And if you, for the physical one we did when we were doing DSCP, you'll see that you won't be able to communicate if you're using your normal network design, right, on your on-prem environment and all of it. You have to start creating trunking, doing stuff that will make them to route. When you create your routing, you will make sure that, okay, this subnet can see this particular one, but they are on the same network. But for Azure virtual network, they can see each other because by default there's already a route that has been created in Azure virtual network for you, so you can see each other. But if we say, okay, we don't want them to see each other, right, we are putting them on different this thing, we can block it. We can just put NS network security group, we can put it here and see anything coming from here will block. We can choose to block it. So all of that we will do when we go further, right? So, but for now, I think we just, Ojo, your hand is still up. Okay.
Sorry,
I think
that's all.
okay. Okay. So where's our network? So this is our network, right? Yeah. So we can assign our IPs that we need to assign. So sometimes this whole stuff, even me that know it, I just need to like settle down to how will I put it? Settle down to get what I want. Like, you know what you want to do, but sometimes it's numbers, right? And once something has to do with numbers, you have to take your time. There's even one site. Let me let me open. Let me get the link. I'll paste it in the. Let me paste it there. So you can use this site. I hope it has pasted. Yeah. So if I come here and just do this. Yeah. So this is the site now. So you can do the calculation here. So first B now, if I say I'm using B for /22, let me, okay, this by the class C IP, right? So I'm just using this, right? And it's a private IP. I already showed you the range. So if I click calculate now for B, I'm using /26. So let's see. Look at what it's telling us. The network ID, let's just look. This is the number of hosts we'll get, right? For the 22, if we're using 22, this is the number of this thing we'll be using, right? This is the usable, the normal calculation, and this is subnet max that we'll be getting. You know how to calculate the subnet max. So if you look at these IPs now, you can see the first IP, it starts with 0, right? This is the network address. Usable IP will start with 1. You can see where it's stopping, and this is where it's ending. Now, if you will notice it, you can see that the numbers got to 16.3, then it got to, you see here is 0. You can see here is 3, right? And the next one is starting from 4. Because you're going to be taking how many IPs? Let's just use calculator to do that, this thing. So this is the IPs, right? The host IPs will be getting for one of the network. One network will be giving us this number of IPs for one network. So if we do 1, 2, 4, so this is actually a bit more complex, right? That's why. So let's just say first of all the IP range, right? That we have. If we say 65536, right? That's what we have. And if we let me just check the network for 22 is going to be subnet. We'll have like 64, right? Yes, that should be, we'll have 64 this thing for 22. So to just explain how I'm getting the 24, you know, okay, this should give us the story. So this is 16, right? So this is, remember, this is class B that we are working with. So we are now borrowing 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Wait, let me count it. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we borrowed 6 bits, right? From the host bits. This is 16, right? Here is supposed to be all zeros because we are using class B. So here is supposed to be all 0, but we went to borrow the 6 bits from the host bit. I just wanted to count it so you see. So if we are borrowing the host bit, if we want to know how many network we can create, right? So this 64 network we can create. So that means 16 has 65536 IPs. That's if we're using class B. These are the number of IPs we can have, right? And then we are creating subnet with /22, which is going to give us how many? 64 subnets. That's what we'll have. So it just simply means we are splitting these IPs into 64 places. So if we say this divided by 64, that's why we are ending up getting this particular number of hosts. So we have 65536 IPs for /16, right? Now we say we want to break the network. We want to create 64 network, and that 64 network is /22. We are borrowing the bits, as you can see. So now that we've borrowed this bit, right, we know that we are going to have 64 subnets. That 64 subnet just means like those boxes I drew earlier will split these IPs into 64 divided by 64. So each of those 64 will be having this. So this is what they'll be having. So now the first number, right, is going to start from 0, 0, right? Then we'll start counting down till we get this number. You know how we do it. But now, how do you get this number? There is a logic to this, right? This is 11024. So if I want to get it, I know that the maximum number, right, that it will go is divided by 256. So you can see it's 256. So the next number that will start on this is 8, like that. So that's just the logic I always use when it is big like this. I know the maximum number of IP, like when you're putting it. So if this guy starts from 0 here, 0, sorry, from 1 here now, if this number is going down, the highest it will get to will be 255 before it starts the next count, right? Like that, until it eventually gets to this 255, like that. So it cannot exceed 256 IP. I'm putting 256 here because it's starting with 0, so that's why it's 256. So that's how I can get the next number, where the next network address will start from. If you want to still try this logic, we can choose to use another distance. Let me go back so that we just try this logic on another one. And once I try this now, I think we can just find our way and rest for the day. Yeah. So this is 19, and let's hit calculate. So it's still the same logic, right? So this is looking like a lot, right? So what I will bring, the calculator would do the job for us. So if we still say we are borrowing 3 bits, right, from this place, it simply means we want to create network, and it's 2 raised to the power of the 3 bits we are doing. So this is 8. That means we are creating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 network. So that 8 network just means our we are dividing these IPs, right, that we have by 8. So if we divide these IPs by 8, that means one of the network we'll be creating will be having this amount of IPs. Now they've done the usable host. That's this calculation. So if we've gotten this right, we've done our division and know that each of them is holding that particular place. At what point do we start changing these numbers? Since we know that the maximum number the IP can go is this 256, right? Let's see, 32. So this is 32, 64. So that's if you're using higher what do they call it? You're going to work with the class B. But you see the site is doing the work for you. So, but it's just if probably you just want to understand stuff yourself, you can just look down and say what exactly is the calculation going there. So for this part, you know how to do the subnet max already. I explained this in binary already. So it's still the same thing that they are doing, where you write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you start adding them. Yeah. So that's for the whole stuff. So once you look at all these IPs, just try to look at them. You would understand a lot, right? You would understand a lot. But I'm trying to keep it simple. That's why I'm not really playing that much with this class B, right? The CIDR notation for these ones, I'm not really playing with it. I want you to understand that smaller one. Then when you understand and you know everything, you can then move forward. Yeah, so we've tried for today, right? Yeah. Questions before I just end the whole training. Yeah. So if you have any questions, we can do it now. So Ojo, what you're going to do, you're going to try to use the account I created for you to do this. Emmanuel, you're going to try that too. Becky, you have yours. Yeah, the Emmanuel, you have yours. Danian, you can actually create yours. Yeah. So just try to use PowerShell to do exactly what, like you may not use the same network address. Just think about your own network address. Me, I did mine like because I wanted to I did mine like this because I wanted to I have I want to create 5 subnets, right? Sub network, and I have 20 devices. So you think about yours, and when you think about yours, then you can hit it like this. So for reference purpose, let me copy this site. So we'll still you can try this on your own. Just look at this. It's also a nice way of writing script, but I wanted to keep it simple for you. So let me copy this. I'll copy both and paste in the chat. Once I put that in the chat now, you can use it for reference when you're creating yours. So please, as we are moving forward, you have like few days to create this, and let me see. If you create with if you come to the portal to create yours, right? Let me see the one you created. Once you hit save, right? Then when you use PowerShell like this, just screenshot these parts and send to me. So I will just see that you actually created yours from the PowerShell. So you do both. So once you do both, screenshot send to me, or don't worry, drop it in the chat. I'll come back and check it before we do the next training. So I think I've covered most of the things I need to cover for virtual network, right? But if for any reason you're still finding something like difficult, like you're trying to do something, yeah, you can still come back to me and just send me a message normal. Then I would try to address it either with you or with everyone. Yeah. So yeah, questions before we move.